No more intimacy. Deal with it. That was it. No warning, no context. Just a casual flick of her thumb and my world turned sideways. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. You know, sometimes your brain refuses to process something that doesn't make sense. That's what it felt like trying to jam a square piece of grief into a round hole of trust. At first, I thought it was a joke, some stupid joke, but my wife wasn't the joking type, especially not when it came to stuff like this, and especially not lately. I didn't text back. I sat there motionless on the edge of our bed, my hand slowly lowering the phone to my lap while my mind started peeling back the last few weeks, maybe months. I don't know when it happened exactly, but something had been bleeding out of our marriage, like a slow leak, almost silent but undeniable if you pay close attention. Apparently I hadn't. Her name is Heather. We've been married for 8 years. The first 3, great. The next 2, decent. The last 3, somewhere between emotionally starved and comfortably numb. I thought it was just a phase. Stress from work, fatigue, life piling on us like it does in every marriage. Turns out she saw it as a sign, a cue, a green light to shift the balance of power. And apparently telling your husband over text that he would no longer be touched, loved, or desired was a perfectly acceptable way to communicate. Now, I didn't bring it up that night. She came home late again and gave me a barely there nod as she dropped her keys in the dish and walked straight into the bathroom. I heard the water run. She stayed in there for over an hour, and by the time she came out, her wet hair slicked back, she went straight to the guest room with a folded towel and a cup of tea in hand, like nothing had happened, like I didn't exist. The bed felt bigger that night, not just physically, but spiritually, colder, hollow. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't try to fix it. I didn't go knock on her door. I didn't draft a thoughtful message asking what I did wrong. I didn't sit in the kitchen nursing a scotch, waiting for her to rejoin reality. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, thinking, okay, let's deal with it then. In the days that followed, something changed in me. Not dramatically, not like a movie moment where I tossed my wedding ring into the trash or stormed off to crash on a buddy's couch. No, this was quieter, more surgical. I stopped asking if she wanted dinner, stopped checking if she was okay when she seemed moody or irritated, stopped making excuses for why she no longer laughed at my jokes or looked me in the eyes when we talked. It wasn't that I stopped caring, it was that I stopped chasing. I'd spent the last few years thinking that if I just worked harder, showed up more, made more money, helped more around the house, supported her career, gave her space, gave her praise, gave her everything, that something would shift. That one day she'd look at me like she used to, like I mattered. But when someone texts you that they've drawn the line, it's only fair to take them at their word. She thought she could withhold affection and still receive devotion, that she could say, deal with it, and I'd quietly orbit around her like a loyal moon, grateful to even be near her gravitational pole. Something had cracked open in me that night. Not broken, no. This was something else, something free. About a week later, I noticed her phone buzzing more than usual. She'd laugh at messages I wasn't a part of. She'd make excuses to stay late after work, always group projects or team drinks or some workshop she just couldn't miss. I started paying closer attention. I wasn't looking for revenge, not yet. I just wanted to understand what she thought deal with it really meant, because clearly we weren't working with the same dictionary anymore. The clues weren't huge, just subtle shifts. Perfume when she left the house at 7 p.m., but no event she could name. Her phone tilted away from me on the couch. An unfamiliar number that she swiped away with a quick flick and nervous glance when she thought I wasn't watching. But the biggest red flag wasn't any of that. It was her best friend, Tessa. Suddenly she was over more often, bringing wine, whispering, giggling behind closed doors. I'd known Tessa for years, a Heather's ride or die since college. But something about her vibe was different lately, too. Too present, too involved, like she had stakes in this, too. One night I overheard him laughing in the kitchen after I'd gone upstairs, something about finally putting him in his place. I didn't catch the rest. I didn't need to. A line had been drawn, and I was finally seeing who had helped her draw it. I didn't rage, I didn't storm down the stairs, I didn't even finish the scotch I poured. Instead,
I quietly walked to my study, opened my laptop, and started a list. A very specific one? Deal with it, huh? All right then, let's deal. I didn't change overnight. That would have been too easy, too obvious. Instead, I adapted slowly, subtly. The first thing I did was stop being available. Not in a dramatic, revenge-fueled kind of way. I just shifted like she had. I figured if intimacy was off the table, then so were the small comforts she'd grown used to without realizing. No more shoulder rubs while she vented about work. No more spontaneous dinner plans or checking in if she'd eaten. No more weekend errands where I tagged along like a golden retriever with a debit card. I even stopped fixing things. The loose kitchen drawer that always caught still catches. The flickering bathroom light she used to text me about every week, now it just flickers. And when she asked, finally noticing, I looked her dead in the eye and said, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." She didn't like that, but she didn't say much either. That's what our marriage had become, a polite exchange of logistical questions and neutral tones. No fights, no affection, just two people managing a house like co-workers stuck on the same doomed project. Funny how fast someone notices your absence when you're still physically there. One morning she said, "You haven't made coffee lately." I just shrugged and said, "Thought you wanted space." She blinked, then turned away. It's amazing how someone can remove something from a relationship, like affection or vulnerability, and assume the rest of the structure will hold, like removing a beam from a house and expecting the roof to stay put. But I wasn't interested in confrontation. I was interested in confirmation. Tessa started coming over more. Too much, if I'm honest. I'd walk in from work and find them on the couch, legs curled up, wine glasses in hand, whispering and laughing like schoolgirls at a slumber party. Every time I passed through the room, I'd get that performative smile. Heather's eyes saying, "Play nice," while Tessa said, "I dare you to ask." I didn't, because I'd already started documenting. Not in a paranoid stalker way. I'm not that guy. But I'm also not stupid. I started noting the nights Heather came home late, the outfit she wore that didn't match the story she gave, the consistent timing of her work events on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then there was the dinner. A coworker of mine, Denise, ran into me in the break room and said, "Hey, I think I saw your wife the other night. Was she at that rooftop sushi place with you?" I shook my head, trying to keep my face unreadable. "Nope, haven't been there in a while." She looked confused. Oh, must have been someone who looked like her. Except she was wearing that green dress. You know the one. I knew the one. Heather wore it when she wanted to be noticed, and I hadn't seen it in months. "Could have been her," I said. "She's got good taste." Denise gave me a careful look like she regretted mentioning it. I didn't. That was the moment everything locked into place. That night, Heather walked through the door, looking distracted. She kicked off her heels and tossed her bag on the floor, not even glancing in my direction. I was at the kitchen counter, eating takeout from the container, something I hadn't done in years. She looked at the food, then at me like she didn't recognize the scene. "You didn't cook?" she asked. "Nope." "Oh." She lingered there for a second, waiting for something more. I didn't give it to her. "Long day?" I asked, playing it perfectly. "Yeah, deadlines." She scratched the back of her neck, glanced at the wine rack, then walked off. I finished my food slowly. It tasted like victory. The next few weeks were a masterclass in passive exposure. I stopped wearing my wedding ring. I told her it was tied on my finger now that I've been working out more, which was true. I joined the gym, started eating cleaner, lost 12 pounds without telling her, gained some tone in places she used to touch without thinking. Now she didn't even notice. Or maybe she did, but she was too stubborn to admit it. I started staying late at work, not because I needed to, but because I could. No check-in texts, no guilt. Sometimes I'd swing by a bar alone, sit at the counter with a beer in my thoughts, and just watch people. Couples laughing, singles flirting, people trying. At least they were trying. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't trying. Heather wasn't trying. Not with me, not with herself, not even with the lies she was living. She'd become entitled to affection. She'd withdrawn, oblivious to comfort she no longer gave. And I was done handing out emotional currency like I was some bottomless ATM of patience. But what really burned, what finally set the next step in motion, was something I overheard late one night. She thought I was asleep upstairs. I wasn't. I'd gone down for water and stopped at the bottom of the staircase when I heard a voice.
"It," Heather said. "He's pulled back cold as hell lately." Then Tessa's voice. "Good. Maybe now he'll see how much he relied on you. Maybe he'll appreciate what he lost." And then they laughed. Not hard, just soft, satisfied, intimate. I stood there in the dark, holding a glass of water, listening to the two of them treat my emotional withdrawal like some kind of punishment I was supposed to learn from. That's when I realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was about control. She thought she could weaponize withdrawal, that I'd beg for scraps of attention, but I wasn't playing that game anymore. And when I finally made my move, neither of them would see it coming. Heather's mood started shifting about a week after that overheard conversation. At first, it was just small things, little hints of confusion behind her indifference. She started pausing longer after I answered questions, watching me out of the corner of her eye when I moved around the house. One night she even asked, "Is something wrong?" And I just smiled and said, "Nope." That's the thing about silence. If you hold it long enough, it starts to sound louder than shouting, and she was starting to hear it. She still kept up her routine. Long showers, late evenings out, vague explanations about planning meetings or brunch with Tessa, but the confidence was thinning. I could see it in the way she hesitated before grabbing her keys or double-checked her lipstick in the hallway mirror. And when she asked if I wanted to come to dinner with her and Tessa the following Saturday, something she hadn't done in over a year, I knew it had begun. She was trying to gauge how far she'd pushed. "Can't," I said without looking up from my laptop. "Got plans." She didn't ask what kind. She never used to care about my plans. Now she was wondering why she didn't know them. Tessa showed up 2 days later, unexpected, uninvited, and way too confident. I was home early from work, fixing a loose cabinet door in the kitchen. It wasn't for her. I just needed to use the drill and couldn't remember where I last put it. When the doorbell rang, I didn't even check the peephole. She walked in like she owned the place, hair up, sunglasses perched on her head, and that smile, the one that always hovered between friendly and smug. "Hey, stranger," she said, glancing around. "Heather home?" "Nope." She looked disappointed, but not surprised. "Oh, thought she might have left early. We were supposed to go over something for a party." I just nodded and went back to the cabinet. Tessa leaned on the counter, folding her arms. "So, you two doing okay?" That's when I turned to look at her fully. No fake smile, no fake warmth, just a quiet, measured stare. "We're doing whatever she wants us to be doing," I said. Tessa tilted her head, something flickering behind her eyes, almost like amusement. She told me, "You've been distant, like ice cold." "She's observant," I said, then added, "Takes one to know one." Tessa raised her eyebrows. "You think I'm cold?" "I think you've been pouring gasoline on a fire you lit yourself," I replied. "And now you're surprised it's spreading." There was a pause. Something shifted in her stance. She straightened up slowly, that glossy polish in her expression slipping just a bit. "I was trying to help her," she said, less sure of herself now. "You've been emotionally unavailable for years. She needed to find herself again." "No," I said quietly. "She needed someone to feed the part of her that wanted to feel powerful. And you just wanted a front row seat." She didn't deny it. She didn't have to. There was a long silence before she gave a tiny, mirthless laugh. "Well, you're sharper than she thinks." "I'm not playing anymore," I said. "Whatever game you two had going, it's over." Tessa looked at me for a long time, calculating, maybe even a little regretful. "You're not as dull as she always made you out to be." I didn't flinch. "And you're not as loyal as she thinks." That landed. She grabbed her purse without another word and walked out. The moment the door shut behind her, I reached for my phone and opened the voice recorder. The whole conversation was crystal clear. That night, Heather came home early. For once, she looked tired. Not makeup tired, soul tired. She put her purse down and hovered near the kitchen island. I ran into Denise, she said, after a moment. I didn't say anything, she said. You've been looking great lately. Losing weight? Dressing better? Still, I didn't speak. Then came the question she didn't want to ask. Is there someone else? That made me laugh quietly, almost involuntarily. No, I said. But you've definitely made room for someone, haven't you? She blinked fast like she hadn't expected that tone. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It means you can't be surprised when someone stops showing up after you bolt the door. She took a step forward. You're twisting this. You shut down first. No, I said calmly. You ended intimacy over text, remember? Deal with it. That's what you said, and I did. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. There was a moment, just a flash, where I thought I saw something behind her eyes. Not guilt, not sadness, doubt. The seeds were planted now. She didn't know how far I'd gone or how much I'd already uncovered, but she could feel it. And Tessa, she wouldn't stay quiet for long. People like her never do. When truth cracks, it doesn't shatter all at once. It peels slowly, and we were just getting started. I think there's a moment in every unraveling where the person who pulled the thread finally feels the fabric collapse beneath them. For Heather, it happened on a Tuesday. She came home early again. That alone was suspicious. She stood in the doorway longer than usual, almost like she was rehearsing her lines, purse still on her shoulder, face unreadable. Can we talk? She asked. I closed my laptop and set it on the coffee table. Sure. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands folded, nervous energy everywhere. For a second, I thought she might cry or explode, but instead she said it. Tessa said you threatened her. I actually laughed. That was the opening volley. I didn't threaten her, I said. I told her I knew what she was doing. She's been a good friend to me, Heather snapped. No, I said. She's been a mirror.
Liked what you saw? Her mouth opened, then closed again. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and locked eyes with her. Do you want to know what she said about you when you weren't around? She blinked, caught off guard. What? I recorded it. I can play it if you want. Your good friend talked about how she pushed you to pull away from me, how she wanted you to wake me up, but she wasn't helping you. She was helping herself feel powerful. She liked being the one in your ear, the one shaping the narrative. Heather stared at me, frozen. She laughed at you, I added, said I was sharper than you thought, said you made me out to be dull. No, Heather whispered, voice shaky, you're twisting it. No, I said, I have the recording. There's nothing to twist. She sat back, staring at a spot on the wall. Her hands had started to tremble, maybe from rage, maybe from fear, but I wasn't done. You remember the green dress? I asked casually, the one you wore to that work dinner? Her head snapped toward me. Funny thing, I said. My coworker saw you, said you weren't with colleagues, said the guy was younger, tall, wore a Rolex. Her lips parted, but she didn't deny it. Let me guess, I said. Tessa encouraged it, told you to do what makes you feel alive, told you I'd never know. Still nothing. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. I've already met with a lawyer. The paperwork's being drawn up. What? Her voice cracked. You're ending this? I tilted my head. You already did. I'm just closing the tab. But she stood up, as if proximity would help her case. We can talk this through. I didn't mean for... I stood up too, calm and unshaken. You meant every word. You typed them out with your thumbs and sent them like a grenade. And I caught it, read it, and walked away from the blast. Hedda looked lost, like the blueprint she'd been working from had just burst into flames. And then, for the first time in years, I saw it. Regret. But regret's a slippery thing. It doesn't fix anything. It just shows up when there's nothing left to hold on to. She tried again. Tessa, she twisted things. She said you were shutting me out. She said a lot of things, I cut in. But she didn't send that message. You did. Her voice was almost a whisper. I didn't
think you'd stop loving me? That one hit not because it was true, but because it was pathetic. You didn't stop to wonder what I'd do without intimacy. You only assumed I'd stay. Silence stretched between us. I did stay, I added softer now. I stayed through your distance, your moods, your half-truths. I gave you everything I had left until you told me not to. I walked past her toward the hall.
"Where are you going?" she asked, panic now creeping into her voice. "Upstairs," I said. "I'm moving into the guest room until the papers are final. The attorney will be in touch this week." "You're divorcing me over a text?" I paused at the stairs, looked over my shoulder. "No," I said. "I'm divorcing you over what followed it." The next day, she called in sick. I heard her crying in the bedroom, heard her pacing, talking to someone on the phone. Probably Tessa. It didn't matter anymore. That Bridget ran too. Later that week, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Tessa. I never meant for things to go that far. She needed a wake-up call. I didn't think she'd self-destruct. I didn't reply. Because some betrayals aren't personal. They're just selfish. But some endings, some are exactly what you've earned. And Heather's was finally on its way. She didn't fight the divorce. Not really. Oh, she protested at first, talked about counseling, said we could figure it out. Even cried in the driveway one morning when I came out with a duffel bag and told her I'd be staying with my brother for a bit. But it wasn't real resistance. It was panic. The kind that shows up when someone realizes the leash they've been holding wasn't wrapped around a pet. It was attached to a man who had just learned to chew through the rope. The last time I saw her, before the paperwork was finalized, we met at a quiet coffee shop halfway between her office and the law firm, neutral ground. She wore a blazer and sunglasses even though it was cloudy out. Her usual confidence was gone. She looked like someone walking into a job interview she wasn't qualified for. She sat down across from me, stirred her tea 3 times without taking a sip, then said, "I miss you." I let that hang in the air. She tried again. "I think I got in my own head. I let the wrong voices steer me. I don't know why I did it. I just felt invisible." I nodded. "So you made me feel invisible, too." "That wasn't what I meant to do." "I know, but it's what you did." There was a long pause. She finally sipped her tea, but her hands were shaking. "I didn't sleep with him, you know." I looked out the window. "You don't have to say that." "I didn't," she insisted. "I thought about it, and I was going to, but I didn't go through with it that night. The dinner, I got to the hotel, and I couldn't do it." I met her eyes. "You still chose to meet him." She didn't reply. And that's when I realized something important. It wasn't just that she betrayed me. It was that she planned to. She crossed the moral lines in her mind long before her body ever followed. And she didn't back out because she loved me. She backed out because she got scared. There's no love in fear, just hesitation. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm done." Heather looked like she wanted to reach for my hand, but thought better of it. "We were good once." "Yeah," I said quietly. "We were." And that was the
Last meaningful thing we ever said to each other. The divorce went through with barely a hiccup. No children, no messy assets, just a few financial accounts, a car each in the house, which I signed over to her without a fight. It surprised her, but I didn't want it. Not because I couldn't afford it, because I didn't want to live inside a memory that had been hollowed out from the inside. The morning I handed the final signed document to my lawyer, I left the building and walked until my legs got sore. I passed cafes we used to go to, shops where I bought her birthday gifts, even the theater where we'd once slow danced in the lobby because the movie made her feel romantic. None of it hurt. It didn't feel like loss. It felt like distance, like I was watching someone else's story, someone who had tried, stayed loyal, loved well, but in the end, walked away before forgetting who he was. 2 months later, I saw Tessa again, at a bookstore of all places. She looked thinner, tired. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey," she said, "you look good." "Thanks," I replied. "You don't." She smirked. "Fair." Heather hasn't really spoken to me since everything. Guess I burned 2 bridges instead of 1. "You played with fire," I said. "Sometimes the match burns you back." She nodded slowly. "I wasn't trying to destroy you guys." "No," I said, "but you wanted to watch her destroy herself. That's not friendship. That's performance art." Tessa looked down and said, "You know, she still talks about you. Says she thought you'd chase her, that she didn't think you'd actually leave. She was wrong. She knows that now." I let that sit for a moment. Then good. I turned and walked away. No dramatic exit, no parting shots. Just the sound of the door opening and the weight of nothing left to say. It's been almost a year. I've rebuilt my life, quietly. Joined a hiking group. Learned how to cook for one without feeling alone.
Started dating. Not seriously, just enough to remind myself that the world didn't end with her. Sometimes people ask why it ended. I just say we stopped being partners, because that's the truth. Beneath the text message, beneath the betrayal, beneath all of it, she stopped being someone who had my back, and I stopped being someone willing to beg for her front. Intimacy isn't just physical. It's in how you speak to someone, how you look at them, and how you choose them day after day, even when it's hard. She chose ego. I chose peace. And in the end, I didn't lose anything. She did. She just figured it out far too late. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.